Hi there. Thank you for joining us at Massey College for the Massey College Music Society's Music Salon this evening. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that Massey College is built on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit of the First Nation, as well as the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis people. This region, directly north of Lake Ontario, has always been a cosmopolitan meeting place where many peoples met and traded. Tikaronto is a Mohawk word meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. This was once a marshland filled with rivers and trails leading all the way to what we now know as Lake Simcoe. In fact, for thousands of years, that lake was known as Tikaronto. The Treaty 13, signed for this particular parcel of land, commenced with the problematic action of the Toronto Purchase and applies to land east of Brown's Line to Woodbine Avenue and north towards Newmarket. Although many have been displaced, this territory is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. I would like to extend my deep gratitude to the Indigenous waterkeepers and convey Massey's duty of stewardship of this territory while also acknowledging the great privilege that we have to live and work on this land. Since we're here to discuss music, I'd also like to acknowledge the profound loss of traditional Indigenous songs and language that occurred during the cultural genocide of many Indigenous peoples throughout Canada's history. As we learned from Wolastoqiyik musician Jeremy Dutcher last year, these traditional songs and languages have become endangered due to the choices made by Canadian political leaders of our collective past, and I support all here in attendance to spend some time engaging with the myriad of Indigenous musics that have been and continue to be made in this land. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Daniel Bartholomew-Poyser in conversation with Dr. Hannah Chan-Hartley. So first, some brief bios. Daniel Bartholomew-Poyser is concurrently resident conductor of engagement and educator of the San Francisco Symphony, the Barrett Principal Education Conductor and Community Ambassador of the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, Artist in Residence and Community Ambassador of Symphony Nova Scotia, and Principal Youth Conductor and Artistic Partner of Canada's National Arts Centre Orchestra. He was Music Director of the Kennedy Centre Summer Music Institute in 2022 and 23, and he has appeared as a guest conductor with orchestras throughout Canada and the U.S. In the current season, he makes his debut appearances in the New York Philharmonic and with the Los Angeles Symphony at the Hollywood Bowl. He is also the host of CBC Radio's weekly show, Center Stage. Hannah Chan-Hartley is a musicologist who specializes in communicating about music in engaging and innovative ways. She is active as a writer, speaker, program book editor, content producer, and instructor with orchestras and opera companies in Canada, the US, and Europe. She's been musicologist in residence at the Verbier Festival in France since 2018. Hannah is the creator of the award-winning visual listening guides, launched in 2015, and since then used and enjoyed by audiences in 22 countries worldwide. Last summer, she debuted a companion augmented reality app for the guides, which adds digital content to create a powerful audience engagement tool for orchestras. So please welcome Daniel Bartholomew-Poyser and Dr. Hannah Chan-Hartley.
Thank you, Sam, for that lovely introduction, and welcome, Daniel.
Thanks, Hannah.
It's great to have you here. How many of you have seen the CBC documentary that Daniel is part of, Disruptor Conductor? Oh, only, okay, that's perfect. So we're going to be talking about this documentary, but we'll show some excerpts from it, but this was filmed in 2019, I think, or it was released in 2000?
I think so.
Yeah, I think, yeah. But we're going to go through that and talk through it, and I'll have you expand on the excerpts that we'll see, and probably expand on what was shown in the documentary. And yeah, I'm hoping we'll have a great discussion.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so I thought I'd ask you a very basic question. Just, I'm thinking that this audience probably knows what a conductor does, but maybe some people really are curious to know what a conductor would say a conductor does. So what does a conductor do?
Gmail. Meetings,
That's actually true. Gmail and meetings. A lot of the conductor's work is thinking about the menu of pieces that are going to give the listener the experience that the operational team or the artistic team wants them to have for that particular occasion. So that's a lot of the work. It's going through music and figuring out which 20 pieces do we want to have, and then what order do they go in, much like a meal. That's a lot of the work. And then, of course, knowing what the composer actually wanted the music to sound like. That's like that internal study and figuring out, sitting at the piano or whatever instruments you're using and just learning about what the composer wanted. That's another big part of the work. And then, if you're very, very lucky, you actually get to rehearse and do a concert. Right? Really, really. The concert lasts just like a very, very short moment in terms of all the work that you do, from the initial email to the meetings to figuring out the pieces to learning the pieces to the rehearsal, and the concert just goes by like that. But what's funny is that it's always like a zero. Actually, it's not even. It's always a positive sum game. The concert always makes up. I've never had it where don't think I've ever had it where the concert doesn't make up for all the journey. It's always a wonderful thing. So that's like, I guess, the work aspect of it. But people have to want to know what you're actually doing when you're actually like on stage. I would call it dividing the time. I'm giving the pulse, and that dictates the flow of what's happening in the music. So I'm basically the flow meter. I can bring it to a halt. I can bring it to a boil. I can highlight this color. I can make that color more subdued. I can make these people stand out. So I'm basically helping bring aspects of what the composer wanted in real time, which is the fun part of it, in real time to your ears in a way that I'm doing this week with the Toronto Symphony 8 concerts of the same music, right? 8 different times, the same thing. And each one is different because I'm responding to what's happening in the audience, right? So one audience was, they're really loud and they're fidgety, so I look at the musicians and I just go, okay, and they're like, okay, we're going faster, and then we do it faster because it's what's happening back there, right? So it's in the moment responding to what's happening based on your knowledge of the score, the music, and the experience months before you decided you wanted the audience to have, if that makes sense. And also having a lot of fun. It's like super fun. It's exactly what it looks like. It's incredible. Yeah. It's
amazing. Sam actually listed a whole bunch of titles that you have working with various symphony orchestras. Can you talk a little bit about your journey to becoming a conductor? What made you become a conductor? And it seems like you have a pretty unique niche in terms of these titles as community ambassador and artistic partner and youth conductor. It's
because they don't know what to do with me, so they're like, okay, what do we call this? I think that's actually true. Actually, it is a little bit different. The work that I do is usually kind of bridging gaps between communities and orchestral music and classical music, reaching communities that don't usually have it or have access to it, of all different sorts, and that's in the documentary. That's a function of how I grew up, basically. Hi, Mom. My mom is here. She's also in the documentary, so we can say she's actually a star. Yay. But it's just a function of growing up in a Caribbean household. In the Caribbean household, you would hear reggae and soca and chutney jams and classical music and rock, like all these things together. Because growing up in Trinidad, my mom, my parents, my aunts, they just heard everything together all the time. So for me, I never grew up with boundaries between music, which is why on the concert that we're doing with Toronto Symphony today and tomorrow, it features Bizet, Johnny Cash, Gongshi Gongshi, Beyonce, Frozen, like Manon Lescaut, Puccini. It's just like, it's all just one thing because it's just a journey. It's all music, right? So I've kind of always approached that, and then retroactively people have been like, oh, wow, why are you doing this? Oh, that's so interesting. And it's not on purpose. It's just a natural outflow of how I've always listened to music and enjoyed it, right? So I started off, I guess it's like the autobiographical question kind of. Got it, okay, right. So in grade 5 or 6, I heard a junior high school band playing Superman, and I saw those musicians and I knew that I wanted to take band in high school. I already started piano lessons. So I took band in high school. I took tuba lessons because I was told that it was the most important instrument, and I guess I felt like I was not important, so I wanted to be important, so I played the tuba. In university, I took cello lessons, and Amanda Forsyth was my first cello teacher. which is hilarious because she is, a worldwide superstar, and she's here teaching me literally first position and how to hold the. We had a ball. We had such a good time because she was, she wasn't used to teaching rank beginners, and I wasn't used to. So there was a really nice space where we kind of met, and those were some really, really fun times. I took cello because I knew I wanted to become a conductor. And then my tuba teacher, Mike Estep, said, I wasn't sure if I should become a teacher or a conductor because I was in Air Cadets, Royal Canadian Air Cadets, 781 Squadron in Calgary. And I loved teaching. So I started teaching when I was 13 years old, right? So I've been teaching for 13 years. No, well, no. You laughed. So whoever laughed is. So I loved teaching, and I think teachers are people who have a fundamental passion about ignorance. It's if somebody doesn't know something, it's you have to know this. How can you not? You just want people to know this thing. So I felt that I liked teaching, and he said, well, it really pays to be qualified in something you enjoy doing. And I said, that makes sense. So I got my teaching degree, and then I was do I talk to, do I go into professional music, or do I do education? It was always, do I do professional music or education? I want to do both. And my friend Keith Fredland, who went to Massey College, right? He said, I can't remember what he said, but it was great advice. It was great advice, and I was settled. I'm like, what, I can teach. He's like, you can kind of do both. You can teach, and you can also keep yourself motivated to do professional music by doing things on the side. I did that for 5 years. Did my master's at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester. Came back and taught for 5 years at a school in Calgary, Glenmore Christian Academy, which was very, very good, a very high academic school. And after being in Manchester, working with the Halley Philharmonic and Sir John Elder and Gian Andrea Nozeda with the BBC Phil, came back and was teaching 9 courses total, 3 courses of music, 3 courses of grade 9 French, 2 courses of grade 8 French, 3 courses of Christian education. My math is not great. Don't add it up, right? just roll with it. And 1 class of boys' health. Yes, but I never learned anything new, so I feel like I came out on top. So that was very difficult. I was like that for a while, right? And I loved teaching, but I realized that the goal of becoming the conductor was kind of fading, and it got to the point where I couldn't even go to the Calgary Philharmonic anymore for a while, because when I saw the conductor walk across the stage, it was that was, you'll understand, a symbolization of what I would never become, what I would never have. So it hurt too much to see it, right? Walk across the stage. Now I see him walk across, I'm like, I didn't have to rehearse today. And I joked, this is another joke, I didn't play tuba because I remember in Dvorak 9, the tuba part has, I think, 14 notes in the second movement of Dvorak 9. The tuba part only has 14 notes, and I think it's 9 different pitches, and that's it, right? I remember being in youth orchestra, watching all my friends play, and I'm like, I don't want to be a tuba player. I don't want to sit and watch people play for my whole life. So now I stand. I'm just they're sitting, I'm just there, here we go. Anyways, I reached a point, I guess, vocational depression kind of. And one of my friends, drum player, CPO, said, just apply for everything. Just go for it. So I said, okay. And I applied, and I got into Alexander Micklethwaite's Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra Conducting Symposium, right? And the first year I applied, I didn't get in, but this year I did get in. And they said I was mid-pack, I didn't win any competitions or anything like that. They said, yeah, you can do this, just keep on going. But they weren't throwing laurel wreaths at my feet or anything like that. So I was like, okay, why not? So I went for another audition, and auditioned for Vancouver Symphony Orchestra with Bramwell Tovey of blessed memory, right? And again, and this was the thing where it's the audition's on the Wednesday. Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., I'm working with grade 6 clarinetists, blow, kids not able to play. And then the next morning in front of the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, just eyes open. And I remember in the audition, I did something in Brahms, right? And I took a big slowdown. And I remember one of the violists saying, and pardon my French, he said, "What the hell is going on?" Right? I didn't know enough at that point to know that at that point the audition was over for me, right? Because I was 19, it's like a young fox raised with humans. It's just everything's sunny. Anyways, I didn't get that audition, but I was in front of the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra. So then when I went to the Thunder Bay Symphony Orchestra for that audition, I knew I kind of had a better idea, and I did get that job. Then Thunder Bay to Kitchener, also blessed memory. Kitchener to Symphony of Nova Scotia, where I still am. Symphony of Nova Scotia to the other orchestras that I'm working with now. So,
right.
Yeah.
And are these positions that you're working with now, are they created for you? I'm curious, because...
Yes, all for the position. Hold on. I mean, like Toronto, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Toronto, definitely, because they already had so basically you'll have like the music director and the resident conductor, right? And often the position of the resident conductor means you have to be at all the rehearsals of the music director. I don't have that responsibility at any of the places that I'm at. So I said the only place where a unique position was created in addition to the already existing resident conductor is Toronto.
Okay.
But basically the job description has changed in a lot of them to include community ambassadorship. So San Francisco, they definitely made the position for me as well too, I would say. Same in Nova Scotia, I'm just kind of there, like a fixture, like on the wall. I've been there a long time, it's great. And yeah, and the National Arts Center Orchestra, that position was already filled by Alain Trudel.
Oh, okay.
Right, but as appointed.
Right, yeah.
But I didn't have to do auditions, which is great. So I think that's special.
And and you felt like you've been able to shape these positions as you want to, or like?
Yes,
Oh,
and
that's great.
that's what's really nice about it. I kind of can just, like as a music teacher, you're totally free to do whatever you want, generally, right? And you can pick the music and you can do all that stuff. So I have a lot of freedom, which I really value, right? Freedom that, different positions come with different responsibilities, but I have real freedom and I love that. Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Let's go into your work with various groups. We're going to focus on 4 here: the neurodiverse, prison, LGBTQ2S+, and the African diaspora populations that you've been developing concerts for them, these groups, for really everybody, but you're reaching out to these particular groups as well. And I think what I want to start with is, because you're in Toronto doing young people's concerts, and some of these young people's concerts are relaxed performances.
Yes.
So I thought maybe we would show you a video excerpt from Disruptor Conductor. I think this was the first relaxed performance, is that correct?
It was the first relaxed performance of the Toronto Symphony. Yes.
Right, okay, so we're going to show that first and then we'll get to discussing it.
This is the first ever Toronto Symphony Orchestra relaxed concert. A concert pairing music with movement. It's open to everyone, and modifications have been made for people on the autism spectrum. For people with any sort of neurodiversity, any sort of developmental delay or cognitive delay, this is a concert for them where they can come and know that their needs are accommodated. A quiet room where they can go if they're just overstimulated. They can get up and leave, go to the quiet room. The back 3 rows have been reserved totally empty, so if they need to go to a quieter place, they can do that. We have ushers with earplugs if it gets too loud. There might be people in the audience that just become overstimulated, right? And they might vocalize during the concert or just yell out. So we know that. We're expecting that. This is important. This is really, really, really important. Because of the social situation, they've been excluded, and they often feel shame about what they're dealing with in their lives. And that's wrong. Anybody who feels other needs to be included.
I love that line, anybody that feels other needs to be included. Do you feel like that is something that's carrying you through the work that you do?
I don't know if I'd say it's carrying me through, it's just an absolute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Can you talk a little bit, did you develop this concert with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, or had you conducted a relaxed performance before? Yeah, I'm curious about the context for this.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a friend called Dr. Ashley. Well, she's a doctor now, and she was a childhood development psychologist. And throughout university, she always talked about a young person who she knew. This isn't breaking confidence. His name was Riley. So he was on the autism spectrum. So I was always hearing, Riley was talking about trains, and he was perseverating, he was doing this. And this was very, very, that was just part of our friendship, and because she was very involved in his care over years and years and years. So I remember in Thunder Bay, they had in Thunder Bay, we had the option of doing some sort of a collaboration with Autism Thunder Bay and having relaxed open rehearsals for those people on the spectrum. And it was wonderful. It was great. So I started doing them there. And Toronto found out about it. And there were people, you know how there's always murmurings in a corner of an organization that they wanted to do this, but like, how do we need somebody who can like help us get, because you know, organizations, especially music, are quite conservative. So I already had some experience with it, and I was doing the concert. They were like, "Hey, would you mind if we had the rehearsal be this?" And I was like, "This is great. Let's go for it. Why not? Absolutely. I have no problem doing this, like whatsoever." Because I'd already kind of been used to people on the spectrum, right, in a sense. So I was privileged in that way. One of the things that really helped me, there's a video online of a young woman, it's called, I can't remember what it's called, if you look up young woman, autism, and coffee shop, and she has had a breakthrough in her communication, right, and was able to direct a film, basically, showing what it looks like. It's like in two halves, like first like from a person who doesn't get easily overwhelmed, and then from her perspective what happens. So they went to the coffee shop, her dad's like, "Hey, do you want this, do you want the other thing?" There's like a cute barista there, a door opens, you hear a bell, they sit down, she knocks over a glass, okay. And from her perspective, right, it's just like, whirl, and then suddenly dad's face is right there, "Do you want a coffee?" Whirl, looks up, sees the cute barista guy, and then he looks at her kind of strange, then the doorbell happens, and all of a sudden it's like glass shattering, and it's like, oh, this is what's happening when they're overwhelmed? This is why they're doing that? Oh, I would do the same thing. I absolutely would do the same thing. One thing that really broke my heart was reading a book about young people on the spectrum who'd had a breakthrough, and I loved this, and it also made me kind of cry. This one young person had a breakthrough, was suddenly able to communicate to his parents, right? And you know, you'd imagine after years of not being able to communicate, or having difficulty with communication, the first words would be like, "Mom, I love you. Oh, the vacation that we took to, you know, wherever was amazing. You're my love." No. So first thing that's typed out is, "The reason I cry when you put on my shoes is because there is a rock in my left shoe every single time, period." It's like, oh, I'm sorry. And before I read that, I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were there. I didn't realize you were there. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You just can't get out here." So those sorts of interactions and understandings totally made me feel quite humbled, and that realizing that when somebody in one of my concerts who's on the spectrum, I'm conducting along, and I hear a scream coming from the back, right? That scream might actually mean Carry-On's tempo is like 30% faster than what you're doing, and it's much, much better, crisper. I can hear that. That's what that might mean. Like that literally, and when you read these stories, that literally is what that might mean. But it doesn't sound like that, right? So I do the work, I want to do the work of translating that and assuming that that's what's happening, because that is what's actually happening, right? Because from what we know about autism. I don't know, I can't remember what the question was. Because I'm ADHD.
There you go.
Right? So
Right.
It's all full circle. So I don't know what the question was, but that's the answer.
I think how you developed, or what was your path in working?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking here. How do you feel because these are a relatively new setting? I think they seem to be more common now. How have people received these concerts?
They've received them so well that this year the Toronto Symphony Orchestra actually made Relaxed Concerts a subscription series. So you can subscribe to Relaxed Concerts. It's now a subscription series. And we're one of the first, I don't know if we're the first, but we're one of the first orchestras to have it be a codified, regular thing that is part of what we do.
That's
so
great.
It's been a great response. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you conducting all of them, or I think
I'm doing 2 of them.
Okay.
And wait,
I think I saw.
I'm doing one, and I think maybe Trevor's doing. No, I think I'm doing 2, but
Okay.
Gustavo Jimeno is doing 1. It's the music director. So it's not
Yeah.
just it's not just relegated to. I just shouldn't even use the word relegate because maybe that's what disrespects what I'm doing. But it's not just Gustavo's doing the Masterworks concerts
Right.
for the Relaxed Concerts, right? So it says something. Let's be frank. Okay, you have the assistant conductor, you have the resident conductor, community engagement doing the Spectrum concerts. Fantastic. It's wonderful making this place. Subscription series, great. But for the music director to say, I also want to be part of this, that means from the youngest, most inexperienced conductor to the most experienced, who's conducting Berlin, New York, all over the place, that we as an entire organization from top to bottom, right, are on board with that. I think that's significant.
Yeah.
Right, because Gustavo, he's a heavy, and we love him, adore. He's wonderful as a human, as a conductor, right? And he's on board with it. So I think that's significant, right? It's sort of like, just to jump ahead, the ghettoization of BIPOC composers to the first half of the concert, right? It's like, we're doing diverse music. It's like an overture, the first thing. Get out of the way. Okay, now the Brahms und the Beethoven und jetzt geht's los. Right? Yep. So what do we do with that? So this is the opposite of that organizationally structured in terms of the concert series.
Yeah, that everyone gets that. Experience. That's great to know. I didn't know that they expanded into a subscription series. Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to move a little bit outside the concert hall experience into your experience of bringing music to, for example, the prison population who wouldn't be able to come into the concert hall, and you're bringing music to them. We're going to show a clip from the documentary about this. Could you give a little bit of context as to, like, do you do this frequently? And what? Actually, I'm curious what kinds of music you bring to these events.
Right. So I'd asked in Kitchener, I can't remember what year, maybe 2014 or so, if we could do a concert in a prison, and maybe Johnny Cash was the inspiration. I don't know. Right. Folsom Prison Blues. But I asked about that, and then a couple years later we had the opportunity. So the program that I went in with was about the psychology of music called Mad, Sad, Glad, which is based on a story that occurred when I was doing my student teaching. Basically, a student came in, was very, very angry about something, and yelled at the teacher. So the teacher took the student into the back room and didn't say anything. He just listened, and the student was like yelling at the teacher, like, "You always did this. You call me da 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 da." And then once the anger was done, he just started crying, and the saddest and the real reason why he was angry came out. And then once he was able to express it to the teacher, and the teacher empathetically just like received what was happening without saying basically anything, then he came through to gladness. So Mad, Sad, Glad. So take 3 mad pieces, 3 sad pieces, 3 glad pieces. We go through that journey, and that was the concert that we took to the prisoners. It was the
Grand Valley.
Grand Valley Women's Prison. So that was one of the best concerts of my life. Best audience, super great. In that particular institution, it's hard to tell sometimes the women who are there as residents as opposed to the people who are there working, right? Okay. So you look at an audience, you can't exactly tell who's who and what's really going on. It doesn't really matter. We did a lot of like engagement stuff. So we played some serious, Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, and then we played some like jazz and some dance music, and they're like laughing and clapping and dancing, and they listen to when they listen to sad, slow pieces, it's pin drop silence. It's pin drop silence. And when I said Shostakovich wrote the 8th string quartet and the second movement, and he said he figured he was going to die afterwards. He was like, I am done, I'm going to end my life. And you see women and they're just sitting there just like, yeah, we good, yeah. Right? Because it's like right there, there's absolutely no, and I mean, if you did that with a regular audience, there's lots of people in the audience that are feeling that way. Right? But there's no pretense in the prison. So it's just very, very real. And actually what happened is like what we were sending out to them, we were just getting right back. So the musicians were actually being, it was just really interesting for us as musicians. It was just a very, what's the word where things are flowing back and forth freely? I don't know.
It's like this like direct,
I don't know. It's just like very like communal sort of like by something. I don't know the word. But yeah, it was just beautiful. Bi-directional, love, empathy, understanding. Yeah. We did games with them. I got one of the women to come up and conduct the orchestra, right? And the orchestra loved it, and everybody was laughing. It was just a real breakdown of barriers for a moment, right? For a moment. Yeah. So you could say, okay, well, what does this like temporary breakdown do? And immediately we go back to our roles. But it's also nice to have like a carnivalesque moment where these things are relieved and we're just there as people all together around the music, all of us. It's pretty nice. So the prison concerts are great. I wish I did more of them. It's hard to get into prison. Okay. It's hard. With an orchestra. It's hard to get into prison with an orchestra because it's like, there's a lot that you have to, there's just a lot to do, and there's a lot of protocols that you have to, and especially after COVID. Right. Right. Yeah. It's difficult. Yeah. So, but that's what it is. So yeah.
Let's have a look at the clip then. Yeah.
So I've hired a string quartet. Obviously, the women cannot come to us, so we are going to be bringing the music to them. This is the first time that any sort of string quartet experience has happened in this prison. There's a wall between the audience and the performers, and today I want to demolish, totally demolish that wall. About music. And what we're doing as a quartet and myself is we're trying to bring music to everybody. Oftentimes when you heard, these instruments, sometimes you had to go to a concert hall to hear it. We're trying to bring it out of the concert hall and just take it to wherever people are. And they're actually...
I learned that I knew music that I didn't know I knew, which is funny, like Beethoven. And you've heard it throughout your life, but you don't realize what it is, right? No, I'm not into classical music, but after being able to experience this, maybe I could look at it more.
I like all types of music, but there's something about classical music. Like, first time I ever heard it, I was actually homeless and young, and I was outside of a orchestra. Like, people were inside at like an opera, like with a live orchestra, and I could hear it, and it really changed me. Like, that was when I started to listen to it. And just the music, like, I just sat there crying. I guess people probably thought I was crazy, but the music just touched me.
I was thinking about you basically, I think, play all kinds of music or bring all kinds of music in essentially in the classical medium. Mm-hmm. Do you feel classical music is special in terms of the way it can reach people? Is there? I mean, we're going to talk about other kinds of music, but. Is there something about it that you feel people should hear this music over maybe pop songs that are also played by classical musicians? These kinds. I know it's a bit intense question.
This is being recorded. So do I feel that classical music is special? Are
you sort of championing that art form over others, or do you kind of see everything as, I don't know. I'm not trying to be hard.
No. I think that's I think it's actually the question.
Yeah.
Like, because now people will pay. Like, I know people who've paid like $500 for a Beyonce ticket.
Right.
Right. Who $35 for a matinee will be. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So, I don't like anything that like would privilege necessarily like. Different people will be reached by different sorts of music. Mm-hmm. There are lots of people that will be reached by orchestral music, and there are lots of people who would not imagine they would have been reached by orchestral music and touched and have a positive experience that just don't know it yet. So that's my audience. That's who I'm doing this for, right? I don't expect that everybody, actually, I was doing a conducting workshop once, and I was talking to the conductors about different sorts of concerts, right? And this one student said, okay, so once you get them into the Pops concert, do you then do a little bit of Mozart so you can graduate them to the real music essentially? And I was like, no, it's like they like that, so give them that. It's like love people in the way that they want to be loved sometimes. Like they like this, so give them that. So I wouldn't say that. It's a really huge question because it's so contextual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, in what context did you first encounter orchestral music? Right. And what did it mean to you? What are the associations of music, of wealth, of privilege, of all these sorts of things? So, this is my art form. I love it. I invite people to the table to enjoy it in the way that I do it, and if they don't like what I do, then go to Gustavo's concert and enjoy that, because I like that as well too.
Right,
So people
yeah.
are invited to the table, but I wouldn't want to privilege, like, I don't like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I love what I do. You know, I've given it in my life. I will continue to give it my life.
Yeah.
Like my heart, everything. But yeah, I don't think everybody has to like everything.
Right. I'm curious just because I've been noticing recently, like quite a few orchestras are doing pop concerts where they're taking like really big albums and performing them with orchestra. And there's something about drawing people to even just the orchestral sound. I was writing some marketing content for another orchestra, and it was just like, you know, they're putting Nirvana with orchestra. They're doing, what else is there? Pink Floyd, yeah, exactly.
Yes,
There are these projects now of bringing that kind of music into the orchestral concert hall, and yeah, it's an interesting way of combining, I guess, melding worlds, musical worlds together in some ways. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think sometimes, well, I guess three things. One of it, like part of that is probably financial, right? Because we need, like, people enjoy this music, so we can put it with an orchestra. The second one is that sometimes it isn't actually putting the two worlds together. Sometimes it's oil and water. Sometimes it's just a band, and then you have an orchestra behind, and you can't hear the strings for
Right.
2.5 hours,
Yeah.
right? And for me, I'm like, that's actually not putting the two together. That can be done better. And I've conducted concerts like that, where it's like you can't, like the way it's arranged, right? But the third thing is that it can't, when it's done really well, it's incredible. When you think of the orchestra not as just, you know, flutes or a bunch of like Western European instruments, but a library of sounds that can be applied to any music, right? Just this collection of beautiful instrument experts that can apply. Then I think we have some really, really interesting possibilities, and that's what's starting to happen all over the world and all of the orchestras.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sort of blending. Speaking of putting two cultures together, we're going to go to the Thorgy Thor and the Thorchestra project, which is one of the bigger, maybe the biggest arc of the documentary. And we're going to show the part where we actually get to see the concert. But I thought maybe you could talk about, again, the context of how this concert, because I think it's one that you developed. And yeah, what was behind that, and what you were wanting to do with this kind of experience?
Right, so that concert came about, this is the concert with Thorgy Thor, who's a drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race. I think she was season 3, season 8. She'd be very mad if she knew I'd forgotten. And I was asked if I would be part of this concert. And this is I think 2017 or something like that. And I contacted Thorgy and said, hey, here's what I think we could do. I think this could work quite well. And Thorgy brought a lot of the comedic drag elements, and then I brought a lot of the like LGBTQ history of Canada sort of stuff and the music that goes along with that, and put the two together. And we ended up having quite a nice concert. So it was very, it's kind of surprising. I didn't think I'd be doing concerts with drag queens, you know. But it actually goes together really well, because it's just performance. But I guess like the underlying question probably is like, why was this actually of interest to me? So I had a fairly longitudinous coming out story, as I mentioned, you know, now being like a 2S LGBTQ plus person who worked at a private Christian school, which again is a very good school. I have no beef with them whatsoever. It was a wonderful, wonderful place. But that intersection is not necessarily an easy one for many years. So it was quite a struggle for many years to sort of reconcile myself to that fact. And there are moments of great pain and agony, and we all know that, right? So to do this concert was for me the opportunity to create a safe space that I would have wanted when I was in a different place in my life, right? So that's kind of the overarching thing that people, it's kind of like, okay, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, like WestJet, which is founded on Southwest Airlines, which is you have a low price, but people get on the plane and they get more than they bargained for. Right, so at the beginning with WestJet, it's like you came in, okay, cheap, but then you're getting jokes, and you're getting nuts, and you're getting drinks. Like, oh, this is great, this is a party. Great. So they come to the concert and say, oh, we're getting Thorgy Thor. Okay, fantastic. Oh, that's great. And then you give them like other soloists and Canadian LGBTQ plus history and motivation and dances and audience participation. Just like pack it full, right? So it's like under promise, over deliver. So you don't disappoint people. Never disappoint. That's like the worst sin of performance, right? under promise, over deliver. That's the goal. So with Thorgy, it was kind of that thing where it's like people came because they just want to see Thorgy, and they get Thorgy, but then they also get like community. You can really put it, because funnily enough, like when Thorgy came out on stage the first time, the screams were so loud that it like cracked the sound. Have you ever heard that? Like, and the musician, we had to like, it was crazy, because it wasn't an orchestral audience, it was a drag audience that came, right? That's who came, and that's who keeps on coming to the concerts. So it's been really fun to see different populations coming to the concerts. It's really nice to go to a concert and look at an audience and see black people and not have them all be the black people that I invited to the concert. But no, it's like, there's my mom and my aunt and my uncle and my cousin and my cousin and my cousin and their friend. Like literally, right? Sometimes
Right.
it's like, I know all of them. And that's okay, it's great, I'm glad they're there. But, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Let's have a watch of this. Is one of the longer clips, and we're happy to show.
I am pretty nervous because there's a lot riding on this concert for me professionally. If it flops, it's going to be a really big flop. This concert puts together my love of orchestral music, which I've had since I was a child, with the LGBTQ concerns that I've had since I was a child. So I want it to connect with the audience on that level. It's my coming out story. It's really me. So we have a concert with Thorgy Thor. And I have to say, in all honesty, I don't, like, we have a plan, like, we have a list. You know, here's the list of what's gonna happen. Don't actually know what's really gonna happen, as you can imagine. So, but the music is fierce.
Let's start off by saying my name is Thorgy Thor, and I feel incredible! Growing up, I always played in an orchestra, and I was always this crazy gay kid growing up, and nobody was ever doing this. So I'm hoping, with this the first one, right? Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that I can just like soar and be this like role model for young kids to look up and say, I can do that too, and what can I do next and better? And I hope they do it better. Okay, so I want to tell you a secret. Musicians are, whether they'll tell you or not, most judgmental people you'll ever meet in your entire life. Whether you tell you or not, exactly. They're the most judgmental. You know what I mean? Exactly. So thank you guys for inviting me here.
Thorgy.
Did you just interrupt me at my own show?
No.
Jeez. All right, so we're gonna try something really cool. See, I said there was gonna be mistakes. There it is. So let's move along. So I'm gonna attempt to play as part of the first violin section in one of my favorite pieces. Is everyone ready for it?
Yeah. So this is something that is not very often done. I don't know that I've ever seen somebody go back and forth. We're doing something completely different. This next little segment, Maestro Thorgy.
I don't know what you're saying, girl, but I love you. All right, let's do this.
So your dream is to conduct an orchestra?
Yes, it always
Orchestra.
has been.
Right. And have you conducted before?
I have literally never conducted an orchestra before. At home, I just feel like it's like dancing and stuff. So.
Basically. Well, if you can dance, you can conduct. And now more, just shake more. More. Yeah! It's good, more. Just like wild. Yes.
We got a queen in the house, I love it. All right, is everyone ready to embarrass themselves? Oh, my microphone is still on, okay.
Yeah, this next part is the scary part of the concert. There was the death penalty for being gay in Canada at one time. And I'm gonna say that. So we're gonna go down, and then we're gonna bring it up. So this is the risk. Queer history in Canada is a history of justice and injustice. So let's talk about it. Let's take a little look. In 1842, Patrick Kelly and Samuel Moore were sentenced to death for being gay. During the 1960s, did you know the federal government created tests and a machine to determine if an employee was gay, literally calling it the fruit machine? In 2012, Nova Scotia government passes the Transgender Persons Protection Act. 2017, Bill C-16 protects both gender identity and gender expression in Canada, and the Human Rights Act. Sing with me. Well, that was the past. Our future is Thorgy Thor. Let's welcome her back out. They're going crazy. Like crazy.
I want the oldest person in the room. They absolutely do not want to come on stage. I want the gayest person in the room.
And you're the gayest person in the room?
You better be really gay, sir.
All you're gonna do is walk to the other side of the room, back here, and show up what you got.
Because you could feel it on stage, just like.
And what's your name?
My name's Gary.
He's getting this one. Can you do this for me? Yeah! Keep that applause going right now. Keep it going.
It went really well. It did. It went well. It went really well. Love is the thing that we are born wanting. And for many of us to finally be able to say, I love you to the person of their choice without shame is something that you have to fight very, very hard for. This is for all of us who have struggled and fought for love.
And now that show's gone to many places, right? Because you've performed it in many.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Thorgy Thor. It's
Yeah.
been really. So would you say it's been really successful?
I'd say it's been successful. Thorgy is actually going to Boston Symphony Orchestra next year. That might be confidential. Sorry. I don't know if that's official yet. But like Thorgy's done great, right?
Yeah.
Has done really, really well. We don't always do it together. Like I think most of the time we do that show together. But then like we don't belong to each other, right? But we just get along great. So we love to work together, and we did a show in Christmas. We have a whole bunch. We have a new show coming up.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's like so it's really, really fun. Yeah, it's interesting watching that now, like 5 or 6 years later, actually, and think about things that I would say differently or things that I would have done differently, and just remembering what it felt like the first time to be going over the laws with O Canada, and just it just I remember what that was like. It was very, very intense.
Has it changed? Like, do you alter the show a little bit since then, or have you? Or made any changes?
No, we haven't really changed the show that much, actually.
All right.
Right? But it's just like thinking about like the laws that have passed and what's happening in the world, and just it's like, I'm really glad that we did this and we're still doing it.
Yeah.
I guess that's how I feel.
Yeah. I think you're doing it. I think you did it with TSO last season. I think you're about to are you doing it with Thorgy at the National Arts Centre in April? Yes, I saw that on the program.
I think that's like 9 concerts.
Yeah, you're thinking that far ahead.
Tomorrow morning, 10:30, I'm conducting. It's like a very short time frame in my mind.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I want to get to the final clip. And you may say in the documentary, I'm going to use this as a lead-in. It never once occurred to me that as a Black person that I could not be involved in orchestral music, never. And I was curious, this is another sort of deeper question, when did you become conscious of the impact of your race? And what that meant for the classical music industry, or your place in the classical music industry?
Well, it became pretty popular after George Floyd was murdered, right? That was really interesting. 1 week I got 9. Hey, can you come and talk to us about diversity for free? Can you come and do a presentation? I'm just like, I don't know. Okay, I guess I help diversity just by being there, but I don't know statistics or anything about it. What do you want me to do? Fortunately, I already had, by that point, I'd already been working with San Francisco for like 5 years, so I knew, okay, I'm like okay. It's like I'm not just being like tokenized, because it's like if San Francisco's hiring me, then I'm okay. If Toronto's hiring me, I'm okay. If SNS, Nova Scotia's had me for like 6 years, I'm okay. But there was some suspicious moments of like sudden popularity. I think the thing that makes me happiest is when I realize that like I'm often there for first, last, and only concerts because I'm community engagement. So a lot of times if it's their first concert, it's going to be me. If it's their last concert, it's going to be me. If it's their only concert, it's going to be me, because those are the settings that I often find myself in. Yeah. So I love that kids will often see a Black conductor for the first time, right? Because I remember I saw James the Priest. I knew that he was a Black conductor, and in high school I just probably saw a picture of him. So I was like, oh, okay, they're Black conductors. So I wasn't like, oh, it's only Karajan, it's only Beethoven, Bernstein. I was just like, okay, no, well, they're Black. Right? So hopefully they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's not even a non-issue. It's just, yeah, what are you talking about? Right? So I think that's doing, especially in like San Francisco, where it's like the entire school district comes to all the education, like every single kid every year sees. I'm like, okay, this is nice, right? They can see somebody up there, right? And then also, I think it's like the fact not just that there's a Black musician on stage, but that I'm in the leadership position. Yeah. So it's like I tell the musicians, stand up, and they do it. And I tell them to sit down. And I had a very, very, in terms of like racism, growing up in Calgary, Alberta, I had a very positive experience, which often shocks people. But I had a very, very, very good experience, right? I'd often be the only Black person in the room, like 98% of the time, and there was not, like I don't feel any particular way about it. Right? So I think that upbringing in a really beautiful environment in Calgary has helped me, because I just feel very much myself all the time. I don't have I don't feel an anticipatory attacks necessarily. And I'm privileged that way because of the country and the place that I grew up in. If I lived in other places in the world, it would not be like that. And I've had other experiences when I've been in those places. Sorry.
Thank you for answering that. Do you find it, because we're going to depart from the documentary a little bit, and actually you do talk about, there's a concert there that I don't know whether it was a fusion of African music and orchestral music, we're going to depart from that and look at the sort of education series and concert experience that you developed with the National Arts Centre Orchestra, which is reggae roots. Is this part of this fusion of music of the African diaspora? Is this part of? Is this a passion of yours as well? Yeah.
Yes, I love reggae. I love soca. I love calypso. I love hip hop. So I want to do them in my job. Super best. Very, very selfish. Very selfish. I just like the music. Grew up with it. So there we go.
And you love the way that it sounds, like with the orchestra too. Like,
again, the whole thing of the idea of a library of sounds is it just expands things, and it's really I just love how orchestra sounds. I love oboes. I love instruments. I love this orchestral instruments. I love the clarinet. Oh my gosh, I don't know why. I love the clarinet. I love like the oboe when it goes from like low octave to high octave. There's like a sound in between. It's just like I don't know. So when you add that to music I already love, it's just very exciting
yeah.
for me. So.
Can you talk a little bit about how the Reggae Roots concert developed?
Yes. Kelly Rasico from National Arts Center Orchestra called me and said, Daniel, can you do a concert of like some sort of like hip hop sort of inspired concert in the fall? And I said, no, I can't do it. I'm too busy. I'm doing too much stuff. But what you should do is a reggae concert, and you should do it with Jamila from Halifax. Have fun. And then 2 days later, I said, and if you're going to do that concert, here are the pieces that you should do for that concert. Good luck. And also, you should also, and then I realized, I want to do this concert. So I was like, actually, I'll just make it work, which was a really good decision because it's been a fantastic concert. Jamila, she won an East Coast Music Award. And I don't know, something with, I don't know, so I think there's another big award coming for Jamila.
Okay.
So it's great, yeah.
Fantastic. We're going to show a clip from, I think it's a video of you guys performing Chant Their Names.
Oh, this is great,
Yes, yeah.
This is Jamila.
Chant their names, chant their names. Chant their names, chant their names. What will you say for yourself? Let me hear it in your own words, Mr. Officer. What did you do to the black man? Tell me, what did you infer? Did you see him as a downright criminal? Tell me who him gonna hurt. Tell me, who are you protecting? Tell me, who do you really serve? What if you got a ticket like Sandra Bland? Do you ever party like Oscar Grant? What about Philando Castile or Eric Garner? What if you couldn't read? Do you have a hoodie like Trayvon? Ever walk from the store like Mike Brown? Ever drop asleep like Ayana? And the tears still a cry for Brianna. Names, chant their names. Whoa, won't see another black mother sent to an early grave. Give us some answers right now. We got to change this somehow. How many lives will be taken? How many tears must we cry for you to see the sad reality upon my picket sign? 400 enough years of slavery, but we're not free just yet. On systemic brutality, check their names so we won't forget. What kind of injustice we judge it one day? Same kind of thing did reach Freddie Gray. Do you have a cell phone like Stephon? Do you play a little music like Jordan? Jack round the town like a man. Some in know said the system of fraud designed to keep the black man down. We guilty with no proof, or just a bag of run around. Names, chant their names. Whoa, won't see another black mother sent to an early grave. Give us some answers right now. We got to change this somehow. Chant their names, chant their names. Ooh, chant their names, chant their names. Whoa. Chant their names.
Great sound. Wow, that's great sound too. In the education series, which is you have to subscribe to access this, is it a whole blend of, about the music itself and then also the historical context? So it's it's basically teaching kids through the medium of the orchestra all about the history of reggae,
what reggae is as a performance practice, like the one drop beat, what makes reggae sound like reggae, and why it came about, and how to enjoy it and the culture of it.
Oh, very cool. That's great. I thought I'd open the floor for questions. I'm sure, we just thought we'd have a conversation with Daniel, so feel free to ask questions. Sam has a microphone that you should use because it's for the recording, and it will make it audible on the recording. So please do take it. It won't amplify in here. So does anybody have any questions?
Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask about that last clip. Who does the musical arranging, and where's the parts made, and how is that all done?
I think that one was done by Aaron Davis. So we just find arrangers for the music. Becca Pallett is one that we use quite a lot. So you just find an arranger to arrange the pieces, make sure everything's works well, and then off you go.
I have a question. Well, actually, I have too many questions. But the first question I'll ask is, you talked about opening up the concert hall, opening up to orchestral music to diverse audiences and inclusive audiences, and saying, with your very poignant and powerful line that, if you're feeling excluded, then this place is for you. To paraphrase. But so I guess the question that I have about that is, orchestral environments are often exclusionary or, rich with pageantry or protocol, sort of by default. Mm-hmm. Do you think that should change, broadly speaking?
I think there need to be contexts in which we play where those rules are suspended. I don't really like clapping in between pieces, in between movements, right? I think sometimes it's nice just to have no clapping between movements. I think that's okay. I don't think that's like a moral thing, right? I don't think it's a moral choice. So I think there just needs to be like more of a variety of contexts within which we present the content, right? So and I often play, in San Francisco, or a relaxed concert. Okay, this morning, Jacques Ibert, flute concerto, first movement, which nobody knows, very difficult, kind of a very chromatic piece, very interesting harmony, early 20th century harmony. In the middle of the piece, the flute player completes this run and there's a cadence. 2,000 grade 3 and 4s immediately start clapping like it was a jazz concert. She's playing, they're just that was great, that was great, fantastic, wonderful. And it's just they're actually responding, right? They haven't learned those conventions. I think there needs to be both. I think there needs to be all. So one of the main problems I've encountered is how do you create an environment where you release or where you lift those boundaries without simultaneously reinforcing those boundaries, right? In the prison concert thing that I did, where I was like, we're taking music to new places. Why did you say that? Show, don't tell. I'm embarrassed. I shouldn't have said all that. Right? So it's when I come into a concert and say, this is a relaxed concert. You're allowed to do this. Yeah. It just reifies the fact that you're not allowed to do any of that. It's a real problem. It's a real problem, and it's hard to grapple with, right? So I think a lot of it is just, and then the other thing, which is happening, is now that relaxed concerts are some of my quietest concerts. I'm just get up, move, we've done all these things. But now it's almost like people feel like they need to show, you've done this for us. Now we're going to show you by behaving according to all the rules that you've suspended. In a double move, how good, it's just which is why the prison audiences are the best, because they're just it's just we're all here as people, right? So I don't know if that answers the question, hopefully. Once again, pardon me? Yeah, exactly. You can't get in this problem. But it's so yes, I think there needs to be just more more different ways of presenting the same stuff. But I think I don't have a problem with us sitting in silence for 2 hours. Right. I absolutely don't. Which seems to go against everything I've done, but it's
So I mean, sort of like a yes and, like just more opportunities
Yeah, exactly.
for more different environments.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Just looking around for more questions. Does anybody have any hands up or interest to ask questions? Hannah, do you have any more burning questions that you want to ask?
I'm thinking. Do you have another
I
question?
do have another question.
Go for it. Oh, do you have another? Okay.
How do you think we can change like the traditional funding model for orchestras so that there's more, I guess, economic incentivization for these kind of performances to take place? Because I guess no matter how many more inclusive concerts you stage, you still need to program so many Beethoven symphonies a year and so many Brahms symphonies a year to get the traditional audience into the concert hall to buy the tickets and make the donations. So do you have any thoughts on how we can reform the funding model for local orchestras?
This is exactly the problem, is that if I come up with some cool idea, it's like I need to sell 2,000 tickets for it, right? So what do? A lot of, which comes with its own problems, a lot of large corporations have quite an interest in orchestral music and in providing music because they want to do things for the community and to be seen as doing things for the community. So a lot of orchestras move towards corporate sponsorship of different events through partnerships, getting grants, partnerships, for example, with Princess Margaret Downtown Health Center. That allows us access to a whole array of funds that we otherwise wouldn't have had for different sorts of community initiatives. So thinking about what we're doing in a very different way and becoming much more decentralized from Roy Thompson Hall and sending musicians out to musicians in smaller groups of places allows us to have access and collaborations that puts us into different brackets of funding, right? So basically, I don't know if it's going to change the way we approach funding, but the proportions, like from ticket sales to collaborative government funding and private funding, it's going to rely a little bit more on that, I think, for those things. And you said we have to have the Beethoven symphonies. It's like we have to have the pop shows and the movies with music and stuff like that to fund everything else. Again, I'm not against that, but I run into frustration when I have an idea for doing music education for adults, or really cool concerts, and someone will say to me, well, but we can't sell 2,000 tickets, so we can't do it, right? So then I have to find a way to, access funding through these other ways. It's really, really difficult. So I don't know if that answers the question. It's not like a perfect answer because the situation right now is not perfect. It's in flux, especially after COVID, right? Government funding is not, look at what's happened even with Kitchener, right? It's not there in the way that we often hope for it, right? So I think those private sponsorships, and really, for me, when I'm working with young kids, I look at that as those kids in the audience today and tomorrow, those like 4,000 tomorrow, those are my future board members, those are my future musicians, those are the future audience, right? So it's like, if they don't have a really good positive experience, like my funding model is like them now, like help them to love this thing now. And then if enough people love it, they won't want it to fail and they will eventually go choosing with their feet. But I think this collaborative model accessing alternate methods of funding is one of the biggest changes that's happening right now. That's helpful.
Just to follow up on that, isn't one way to finesse the situation is to do what you did in the prison? Just to break up the orchestra and take pieces. Do you have to, how much of the experience did you get from just having the quartet there, right? And can't you do more of that with just bits and pieces of the orchestra without the whole extravaganza?
We can do that. We are doing that, and it's the same question in terms of it's a balance. So we can do so much of that, but then at the end of the day, I want the kids to experience Bartok Concerto for Orchestra. Right, just feel that, or feel an overwhelming Mahler symphony, right? So if you decentralize too much and you just have this roving band of guerrilla musicians going out, right? Then how they still have to be paid the same amount. It's still, are you getting that money back in the funding, right? So I'm more on the very touchy-feely side of things. I'm just I will trust. We'll just go and play music and everybody will love it. And then our accountants are there is another side to it. So. I think part of my job is, and with 4G Thor, I haven't I look at Thorgy Thor economically. It's like, how much revenue is this creating? The job of a music director is to create value in the community, right? And that value I measure by like, is my last stand second violist or second violinist making more money 3 years after I became music director than they are now? I think that's a reasonable measure. When I see them walk in with their 2 kids, it's like, that's part of my job. It's like, and maybe that's over-responsible, I don't know, right? But I think that's part of the job of the music director is to create that value. And it's like a monetary value and also musical value in the community. So we can do that. We have to do all of it. I think it's strategy, right? And where we're going to get the most impact for the most efficient use of our resources. Right? And every city, it's going to be completely different. Thunder Bay is not going to look the same way it's going to look in Vancouver, not going to look the same way it looks in Calgary. And if we try and take a model from another city and plant it in here, we're going to fall flat on our faces because it's not the community. It's just add water. It's not going to work. That's my thought. But I'm the people person. I'm not the finance person. So I hope get my operations manager in here and give you the.
That's key.
You probably have time for
Obviously the key to the whole thing.
one more question. Anybody?
Okay, I got a question.
Go Sam.
Talking about being a people person and working with, the question came up a little bit earlier about bands or rock bands with orchestra, blending these two worlds and the challenges that, are inherent in that process. One of the challenges that I immediately think of is just getting those two worlds to be in conversation with each other. The performance conventions are so different between those two processes. So watching this reggae band with the National Orchestra, I guess I would just wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you get these two worlds to speak the same language.
I have nightmare stories of exactly this. It happens because orchestra is such a culture. It's such a culture of sit down and play it perfectly, right? So we are the weird ones. I remember working with Gaelic groups. I was working with the Bar McNeil's once, and they have the orchestra chart is there. And I said, okay, where are you guys starting? And they're like, oh, it's like the verse where Sally O'Brien's cow is in the field. And I'm just like, but they all know, because these are stories and this is music they've grown up with. And they're like, and then we just cut out this part and we jump in, and it's their song. And I just want to know, like, da-da-da-da. Or working with Indigenous musicians, and with Mi'kmaq musicians in Halifax, right? And can I tell, we have like 2 minutes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just briefly, this story. I worked with one orchestra with some musicians and with an Indigenous group, and we had a rehearsal on a certain day, and I did everything right. I got permission from the elders to arrange the music. I talked to them. I got the recordings. I said, are you okay with this recording? Absolutely fine. Okay, the rehearsal's on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And I kept telling them, Tuesday at 1 o'clock, Tuesday at 1 o'clock. The dancers have to be there at 12:45. We start at 1 o'clock. We're going to rehearse, right? Monday at noon, he's like, hey, Daniel, can we move the rehearsal to Wednesday? I'm like, this is orchestra. You can't move anything in orchestra. No, it's at 1 o'clock. So they show up like right at 1 o'clock. We go through the pieces. So it's like we did the first piece from like 1 o'clock to 1:07, the next one from 1:07 till like 1:13 or 1:14 probably, because 7 minutes per piece for a 4-minute piece. And then we did all of them again. We were 2 minutes over, so we ended at like 1:22. I'm like, great, thank you so much. Dang, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. Can we try to I have to get through a movie, I have to get through all these songs. I'm like, no, we can't do it. We can't, it's not gonna work. The performance the audience really loved it, destroyed the relationship with those musicians. Because just come in, play, leave. Just play the notes and go, right? And they weren't angry to our faces or anything like that. But it was just like, I was mortified. It was like, this was terrible for this and horrible experience for them, right? So then in Halifax, the next time we had an opportunity, and that didn't happen in Halifax, but we had an opportunity to work with Mi'kmaq musicians. So they had 4 pieces and it's online. It's the Chalossi sessions with Alan Syllaboy and the Thundermakers. It's online. They had 4 pieces. I think it's about like 20 minutes of music. We had 10 hours of rehearsal. The first 2.5 hours of rehearsal was us just on a Zoom call talking. It was during the pandemic. We just talked for the first 2 hours. How are you? Got to know each other. And then the next rehearsal, I can't remember what we did. We just all kind of gathered, and I learned something really incredible from Alan Syllaboy, which is, we'd start a piece and you'd say, let's see how it goes. And we'd play it, be like, let's try it again and see what happens. And just, with orchestral musicians, so we'd like pick the musicians from the orchestra, right, that were into something like this. And just experimenting and trying different things. We had to go to them. We had to learn how the Mi'kmaq musicians, how they want to make music. And the same thing with the Bar McNeils, and the same thing with rock musicians, right? It's not just, Willkommen beim Orchester. Jetzt machen wir so und so und so, jetzt, und dann fertig, Schluss, tschüss.
Yeah.
No, it's not right, right? It's fun, it makes us feel good, right? But it's not the way to treat people. So, in terms of like diversity and inclusion and stuff like that, there's like who's playing, who's being played, who's listening, who's deciding. But the most important was how are we treating each other as we make these decisions? Because you can have like totally diverse orchestra and diverse program and diverse board and diverse audience, and people are being treated like crap. And it's okay. Well, what's the point?
That's a really interesting insight into the process, because if we're going to be working with different kinds of artists, especially orchestras, then we have to think about how the exchange happens and the relationships that we make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All processes are not the same.
That's right. And there's no one right process.
And we get stuck in our own, right? And we don't realize we're stuck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. That was wonderful.
Okay, so I just want to thank Daniel one more time, and Hannah, great. I learned so much, and it was really powerful, and your story is wonderful, and everything you had to say really was moving and meaningful. So give Daniel Bartholomew-Poyser and Hannah Chan-Hartley one more round of applause. One last thing before everyone takes off and we shut down this live feed, or whatever. There will be one more music salon this year. On March 6th, we'll be welcoming Karen Ng, brilliant saxophone player and fearless musical innovator, one of the leading lights at the creative edge of the Toronto jazz and improvised music scene. She'll be joining us in performance and conversation. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks.
Thank you. How do I get to feel okay?
Yeah,
okay, good.
Fine. Thank you so much for your question.